is Daniel Robinson. I attend AC Flora, and I'm planning to major in geology at College of Charleston.
Good job.
When the lights and camera turn off, I will be here. When the interest and conversation fade, I will be here. When there's no one around, a father will do anything it takes to be there for his son, to protect his family.
David.
Where's everybody?
9 painful months.
Without these special people behind me, I wouldn't have a search. Hello, everyone. Dave Robinson here. I'm the father of geologist Daniel Cornelius Robinson. Thanks so much for joining in with me on this live stream. I didn't give anybody notice of it, but I wanted to go ahead and do a live. I haven't done one in quite a bit. As many may know, I've been very busy doing some congressional run and also working very hard to try to find answers for my son, working behind the scenes to get answers from law enforcement. So I'm there trying to get the work done. But tonight, I'm hoping that you guys can come in, and those who don't know about my son's story, I can give like a little part of what happened to my son, so everybody can get kind of caught up. My goal is to bring back my live streams and try to do it every Friday, kind of dedicated Friday to live stream day. I haven't came up with a time, exact time that I would like to do it, but maybe around this time I will be doing the live stream. So like I said, live streams will be building up on what happened to my son. A lot of times I do an engagement with the public. Sometimes people think about things that I haven't. I use, for a prime example, I had a young lady who was on this live stream, and she pointed out the fact when law enforcement said about my son, well, actually the story from another person who said my son, he saw my son, would be the second person who said he saw my son out there in the snoring desert, said he gave my son, gave him directions to where to target practice, for instance. And the person in the chats were like, I thought that that was your son's first time ever been out there in that desert area. And so that make a lot of sense. Things like that, just little common sense stuff. So that's the reason I like to tell the story, for, first of all, to bring awareness of Dane's case. And also it helps me to think about sometimes things that we haven't thought about when I say when it comes to in terms of investigating what happened to my son. But for those who are in the chats, thank you so much. I see you there on the Instagram side that came in on today, and those who are on the Facebook and some other areas. I do not see you just yet, but I'm hoping that some of you will join in. Again, like I said, I understand this being the first live in a long time, so I'm not planning to stay on for a long time, but I definitely, like I said, want to be able to talk about a little bit about what happened to my son and things like that. So so everyone can be updated into what happened. So before I even get started, though, one thing I wanted to do is to talk about other missing American cases. That's very important. I think that when we are sharing other loved ones' stories, it is important, because I know, looking for my son, one of the hardest things I have done was work. I mean, like, pushing really hard was to just get Daniel's name out there, just talk, so somebody can start talking about Daniel, and because I understood at the beginning that when you have a missing loved one, the critical part of that is to have that somebody sharing the story. I mean, that's big. I mean, I get it. Law enforcement can do a search. The family, we can do a search. We can start investigating. But when we only get out but so far, but when you guys are sharing on social media the story, the case, what's going on, it's bigger than the news cycle. The news cycle could put it on television and things like that, but it takes you to carry the story on, right? And so again, it's very important. So what I want to do is go on the stage on here right now and put this, talk about some of the children that have gone missing. See if I can replace that signal, but that logo up the top. But some of the children that have gone missing right here in Columbia, South Carolina, well, right here in South Carolina, period. We have a lot of missing Americans, children, and that's all over across the country. And so I just wanted to highlight a few of them, and then we can go on to talk about Daniel. But we have Kamaya Jenkins here, who is missing ever since May 24th of 2025, out of Aiken, South Carolina. She's now 16 years of age. If anybody have any information about her, please contact the Aiken Police Department. And that's right here in South Carolina. It's 1-803-642-7620. Next, we have also Gracie Janelle Jean Abbott, missing out of Aiken, South Carolina, ever since October the 5th of 2025. She's now 16 years of age. If you have any information, you see the pictures here. Any information, you can reach out to the Aiken Department of Public Safety. That's right here in South Carolina. It's 803-642-7620. Then we have here Khalil Shaw. He's been missing ever since January the 7th, 2025. He's now 14 years of age, out of Lexington, South Carolina. You can you see the information here about Mr. Shaw. He's a black male, dark complexion, 5'5", 110 pounds, black hair, just in short and length, and also his color of his eyes is brown. He was last seen around January the 7th, 2024, on Railroad Avenue around 10:30 a.m. Information about him that you may have or know, call the Lexington Police Department at 803-358-2067, or the Black and Missing Foundation at the number you see there. Next, we have here Gabrielle Terrelon. She's been missing ever since October the 30th, 2025, out of Margate, Florida. She is now 10 years of age. And if you have any information, please call the Margate Police Department in Florida at 1-954-764-4357. All right. We also have here Neve Smith. Been missing ever since June 17, 2025. She's now 15 years of age, out of Orangeburg, South Carolina. Black female with dark complexion. She's 5'8", 165 pounds, with shoulder-length hair. Her eye color is brown. She was last seen on June the 17th, 2025, around 6 o'clock a.m. at her home in Wingate Street. Anybody with information can call the Orangeburg County Sheriff's Office here in South Carolina at 803-534-3550. Black and Missing Foundation at the number you see there. Also, we have here Delma Bautista. Has been missing ever since January the 6th, 2022, right out here in Columbia, South Carolina. She's now 20 years of age. If you have any information, you can call the Columbia Police Department here in South Carolina, 803-252-2911. And lastly, I would like to highlight Ms. Desire Phillips. She's also missing out of Columbia, South Carolina on February the 8th, 2024. She's now 17 years of age. You can call the Richland County Sheriff Office here in South Carolina, 803-576-3000. Again, thank you, everyone. I just wanted to make sure that we're, like I said, sharing missing loved one's story. That's very important. And like I said, we have over 600,000 Americans that go missing every year, over 3,000 a day. A lot, of which over 2,000 are children. As we speak, we have missing Americans all across this country. A lot of children. We have a lot of Black and missing Americans. When I say that, we're only 13 to 14% of the population, but can make up to 40% of all missing American cases. So it's a crisis that's gone unheard, especially with the climate that we live in, with all the noise in the news cycle, all the things that's going on in the country. So a lot of times things like this go up on the radar. You know, we have people missing. It could be your neighbors, some of your friends, family members, you just being unaware of, you know, and so when we're sharing these stories, it's very important so we can get that information out there, despite all the noise, because the news cycles are always going to be looking for stories that's going to highlight their ratings and things like that, and bring in money for their departments and stuff. So when it comes to having missing loved ones, a lot of those things, like I said, going under the radar, and then bam, we just don't get those those things, no notifications about what's happening sometimes in our own community. So I just want to go right here real quick and talk to everyone in the chats. If you guys have any questions as I'm going along, and I'll tell you, I'm going to talk about my son. But as we go along, if you have any questions, you know the routines, those who've been with my lives in the past, put the question the question mark before your question, or the word question before your question. And that way, when I come down the comment section, I can identify it as a question, and then I will put it up on the screen. But for now, I am going to put some of you on the screen just to say hello. Thank you so much, Cheryl, for being here. It's going out to your son and family. Thanks so much. I thank you for the prayers. We have Mary Ellen. Thanks so much. I just found out cartels were working with crooked sheriffs in Arizona. That is something I would not doubt. Just being around some of the areas out west, especially Arizona, I wouldn't be doubtful of that if that turns out to be something to talk about. Thank you so much for being here. It's been a long. It's been long. Let's find Daniel and bring him home. Yes, again, yes, I haven't done lives in a while, you guys. I've been very busy. Looking for an opportunity to do the lives again, because I know, again, the awareness and talk about Daniel's story will keep it out there, keep it fresh in people's minds, and keep people on the lookout. So, of course, it's very important to me, important to my family, and it's important to, like I said, just getting the information out there. Those things are very important. And I want to say thank you, Mary Ellen, again. Cops brought out in Arizona by El Chapo Crew. I'm going to look into that and see if I could hear more information about that. Cheryl Palmer, thanks so much for being here. I have been following the story of your son since Veldek Helsel. Now missing for 4 years. I'm so sorry to even hear that. And I can imagine what the family are going through. My prayers are going out to that family as well. And I know it also well. And it's not an easy time when you have a missing loved one. Even in 4 years, it's been 4 years for Daniel, of course, too. And it's just like yesterday. Just kind of strange sometimes when I look back at the time that went by, and my son is still missing. So I want to talk about Daniel somewhat. Born here in Columbia, South Carolina, youngest child. Daniel born without a right hand. Many of you know that. Daniel is a go-getter. He's a person who's really strong-minded and very confident in himself. He's been that way all his life. He's been there since he's a child. Even at beginnings, when I always keep smiling about the fact that he taught me and his mother a lot of who he was by personality. He taught his siblings the same, his strengths that he have, just to be able to say, hey, you know what? I love me. I love me the way I am, and that's the way I am. And not only that, he also, took that strength and did whatever he wanted to, whether play a little bit of sports or taught himself the French horn, to play other instruments, to academics, just challenges his siblings and everyone else when it comes to academics, always being a part of the All-Stars high school, junior high school, elementary school, you name it. Been doing so much academically, and also earned his way into college to pursue his dreams in geology and graduate with honors. So the stories there for my son of who he is as a personality, very family oriented. Love his family, his grandparents. Love him. We all love him. He has that spirit that I miss very much. So that spirit that many of you who listen to my voice who know Daniel personally would tell many that Daniel is a very friendly person. Well, you get around him, you can't help but love him. And that's his personality to pull people together and pull people around him. So, those things about my son is some of the things I keep in the hole in my memories. My son decided to go out into Arizona, where we actually took a class in Arizona and the Flagstaff after he graduated. I never still understand the reason why, but something with the school. So he took the class for something with dealing with geology. And when he was there, he decided to stay. Didn't want to come back to Columbia to stay. And he landed his first job in life with Matrix New World. It's a company, engineering company that take care of groundwater out west. That I think they have one out east in New York is the main office, but out west, Southwest Groundwater is Matrix New World, Matrix Southwest Groundwater, two same names. But they hired him on as a field geologist, also called a hydrogeologist, to go out and assess wells and groundwater and all this kind of stuff, the scientific things. But Daniel loved the job because of the fact the opportunity that he got to live in Arizona, I think is an ideal place for a geologist. So, of course, he loved hiking and things like that on his pastimes, and just being out into the nature. I think one of his favorite places was Sedona. I remember when I later had to go out to Sedona to follow a lead, and I see why. I see why he likes Sedona. He tried to get me to go there many times before, but being under the circumstance, I ended up going. But the fact is, Daniel loved his job. He liked the job at the time. Well, I say it started getting kind of rough as he was coming up to where he ended up going missing. But outside of that, he loved the job, as in to go out and different places, get to move around, not to stay in some office and things like that. So Danny's an outdoor person, so he really liked being out in the outdoor and doing his job. That is, like I said, assess groundwater. But anyway, on June the 23rd of 2021, my son was assigned, which they always do get assigned to various well sites or various sites where they're drilling, for groundwater. And all across Arizona. Arizona being a desert state, they need those groundwaters have to be wells have to be in communities that are being built by law. Have to have, I think, 2 well sites to rely. That community need to rely on the groundwater because it is Arizona, like I said, desert state. But his company job as well is to assess those wells to make sure they can produce 100 years of water and recharge itself after those 100 years and also things like that. So his job is very important, to make a long story. Very important job, but he went out on June 23rd, 2021. He got assigned to well sites for what I was told. And he went to the first well site without incident. Outside of that, I can go to the details about it. But he was assigned to a second well site to meet one person out there in the desert, the Sonoran Desert. His name is Ken. He went out to meet him the first time he's supposed to be meeting this guy. And I'm just going to go to the outside of the story without going to the details. Part of me really want to get deep dive into it, but I'll be here all night. But the outside of the general idea of Daniel's story, he met the Ken on Sun Valley Parkway, outside of that desert, and outside of the area where they would be working. He met him on the side of the road, according to Ken. They just had a brief conversation there. My son followed him into that desert. They went 1 mile west, 2 mile north to get to the well site where they'll be working. Once they got there, it was at 9 o'clock that morning. Ken said my son and he had some conversations about the weather. And from there, my son just abruptly just waved at him like he's leaving, hopped into his vehicle to never be seen again, drove off to never be seen again. Ken said that he later decided to follow those tracks to see where Daniel went. And I just have to tell you from my point of view, He told me personally, directly, that he followed Daniel's tracks and he stayed left of those tracks not to disturb them. Those tracks, Daniel should have gone 2 miles south. Back if he was going back out of Sun Valley Parkway, he need to go 2 miles south. And once he get to the T junction, he need to make the left turn to get to Sun Valley Parkway. However, he's saying that he followed those tracks. He stayed left of tracks, not disturb them, because law enforcement would come looking, and this thing would go national. So he stayed to the left of those tracks without damaging them. He said he knows the track went right, further out into the desert, went out west, in other words, further out into the desert. He followed those tracks until he got to a wooden fence. He said he got out, opened the fence. He went through the fence. He drove another mile or so till he came in the open area. He got up on a high incline of the area to look out to see if he could see Daniel from afar. And then he decided to paint the rocks with red paint to show law enforcement where to come look. And so those are the first parts of Daniel's story that was given to me, partially by law enforcement, partially by Ken. From that point, I can tell you on my end, my daughter, that day on June 23rd, it was late here in South Carolina with 3 hours. Around the same time, I think this weekend, we actually moved the time back again. But it was around this time when actually it was in June. And that's when it was 3 hours difference, is what I'm saying. It's going back to 2 hour difference from Arizona, but now it's at 3 hours of difference. And so, of course, it was a little later here in South Carolina than it was in Arizona. By the time I got that call from my daughter, who was really frantic on the phone, and say, "Hey, look, someone came to her house. She don't know who this guy is. Say he know Daniel. He say he been to her place before because Daniel brought him there. I guess that's why he's sitting outside, obviously. And he said he just came to see if Daniel was there. He explained that they haven't seen Daniel since that morning. And so that really made her really uptight. She, of course, gonna call me, her father, and tell me what was going on. I remember I was sitting on my favorite area in the back, on my back porch, just watching television when I received that phone call. And that one phone call changed life. Make a long story, I had to end up trying to get a welfare check. It was very difficult to even ask law enforcement for a welfare check, especially with the climate of things that was going on at the time. It was right after George Floyd situation, and some of these things where a lot of people getting shot, a lot of Black Americans getting shot just for making a phone call. And so, of course, it was hard for me to actually ask for that welfare check when I wasn't there to watch law enforcement while they were doing so. But I was ultimately able to do it, which was denied at first. And then when they found out that I was looking for Daniel, they pushed me over to the Buckeye Police Department, where I asked them to get this welfare check done. In terms, they had to call Tempe Police Department, where Daniel was living at the time, and had them to go out. And then what they did, they drove past his apartment, kind of peeked at his window, and checked his door to see if it was locked, and that was the welfare check. I also put in a missing person report, or I tried to. They told me I called too early. They had a report time that I had to hang up the phone and wait 2 hours and then call back. And so once I did put the police report in, I gathered more information all the way from here, from Columbia, South Carolina, gathering the information of what happened to my son. I mean, just anybody who have a missing loved one, you understand that you do due diligence first. That's your first thing you do, is to get all the information you can. You just don't go out and say, "Hey, your loved one is missing." You try to find them first. You find out if anybody else heard about it, heard from that person, or things like that. So you put all those things together to try to find out what happened, or if anything happened. Like I said, that welfare check was part of that. And then when you realize, and one of the striking things for me was the fact that Daniel, it was over 6 hours since someone last heard from Daniel. That is untypical of Daniel. That's not his spirit. That's not his personality. And so that was a red flag for me as a father. And from that point, I tried to put this person point in, like I said, poured in, asked to wait 2 hours, had to wait 2 hours, pacing the floor, and then called back. Got the report in once I got information, and found out it was not, from what I heard initially, hey, he went missing near these White Tank Mountains. I didn't know. I never heard of Sun Valley Parkway at the time, but it said near his job said near White Tank Mountains. They didn't mention the road. But once I gathered more information, they say no, this site where it was at is off of this road called Sun Valley Parkway. I was talking to Officer Cruz, who said he was riding up and down Sun Valley Parkway in the area to see, he's stuck on the side of the road. But when I found out it was actually in the desert, Sonoran Desert, I asked them to please go out and look for my son. He's, one thing I can say, they have never grown up to feel like he couldn't do anything or challenge himself. The last thing come to my mind, the fact that my son has a missing right hand, but I tried to use that as a basis for law enforcement to go at the time. The basis also the fact that I learned that Daniel's he never been out in that area before. He's from South Carolina. I even tried to use that part to get them to act. And they told me they couldn't send a helicopter out at night to look for anyone. Helicopters can't fly at night. Of course, you guys know that was a problematic for me at the beginning because I'm a military veteran and we fly at night in the war zone. So helicopters can't fly at night. They can do searches at night. Matter of fact, I can go fast forward and know that helicopters do. But anyway, take that. I took it in stride. They said they can do it in the morning. So of course, we sat there all night, no sleep, pacing the floor. Couldn't wait till morning, gather all the information I can, talking to Officer Cruz all night, giving him information, getting information from him. The next morning came, next shift. I was told that they were going to go, but then they called back and said, no, they canceled it out. The officer then, I think his name was Birchfield, told me that, hey, look, my higher up said his counsel is voided out because Daniel's a grown man. He can disappear if he wants to. That was a red flag for me because Daniel did not tell him that he wanted to disappear. Because I said, where you get that from? That was their assumptions and their belief to cancel a flight to go out and search for my son. So, when I start hearing certain languages, especially from the way I was raised, when you have to deal with the way those languages are when it comes to law enforcement, I understood their language all too well. Thank you, PM Channel. I see you there. I understand their language all too well. That said to me that your son is not that important to us. We're not going to take those resources and go out and look for your son. They went even further when I talked to Officer Birchfield, and he was telling me they just put him in the database, meaning that almost like an APB, if he get caught by any camera from a law enforcement officer, his license plate, it would come up a red flag that they reported him missing, pretty much. And so that wasn't good enough for me. Of course, hearing those languages, it did kind of take my mind away. Being a parent, hey, look, if anybody gonna look for your person that you love, your child, it'll be you, so it was automatic for me. Of course, I just decided to drive. I got in my vehicle, and some people say, why didn't you fly? I wasn't even thinking. When I heard that language, it just took me away. I grabbed everything I could, threw it in my vehicle. I guess because I have a history of being a truck driver. I've been truck driver for many years. But the thing is, I drove. I just started driving and handling my business as I was, traveling. So it was a long ride. It was a long travel to get to Arizona, but I had a lot done at the time. I was talking with my auntie who lives in Philly and worked some things out where she was actually working her in to try to get some law enforcement going. We're trying to get this flight going, get them to go out there with the helicopter. I can't tell you, they say, and to this day, I'm saying it that way for a reason, but they say they put the helicopter out to my aunt, told her, whatever she said to them, they said, hey, we're going to send the flight out to go search for Daniel. I was almost in Phoenix at the time when that happened. And I was, of course, we're excited as a family, very much excited. But I'm going to stop right here really quick because I see some questions. I don't want to get past too many questions for those, but then I will pick up from where I am now when I actually arrived in Arizona and tell you some of those details for those who don't know the story. And then those who know the story already, I know you're hearing a repeat, but this is for those who haven't know anything about Daniel's story. And I want to kind of put it back out because I'm going to start again. Like I said, those who just getting in, I'm going to try to make it a point every Friday to do a live stream again and go back to that again to bring some more attention and awareness to my son's case because I really need it. I really need it, and I will explain it to it as I go. in the current climate right now, especially dealing with law enforcement. Lastly, before I get this question, you guys remember on April 10th of this year, everything, the vehicle right here you see in the scene, the clothing right here where my thumb is, that was away from. I'm going to share some pictures with you shortly, but um, those things was given to me. You already know the story. I had it for many years, and then I was able to convince them to take it back in custody because we have a new investigator, detective at the Buckeye Police Department who gave me some promises, and we transferred these items back to them to do the right thing this time. And I almost have to report that they haven't done some things that I felt I expected them to do, and they haven't done it so far. So I need everyone to participate because do have a real busy life, and I want everybody to participate because what it does for me is give me the backing I need when I go approach law enforcement because they don't want that attention raining down on them again. I'm sure Chief Sanders don't want it, the Buckeye Police Department don't want it, but at this point we probably have to give it to them. So I'll try to push that back out again. Thank you again, PM channel. I'm going to put you back in a second, but James, thank you so much. You say hi, Mr. Robinson. I keep sharing your son's case all over Facebook and Reddit. Thank you so much. I listened to all the podcasts you did. I'll never forget it. I hope you get a resolution. It's ridiculous they refuse to search the well on the work site or look or more into Billy Hayes and Elliot. Yeah, and we're going to talk about that, Mr. James in Arizona. We're going to talk about that because, like I said, these lives are going to come back again. I want to get deep dive back into that, and we'll talk about these people like Billy Hayes and also Elliot. So we go ahead and talk about those things, and I agree with you on a lot of that because they haven't deep dive and dig into those two characters like they should. So of course. We're going to do that. But I want to say hello to you, PM channel. Thank you so much for being here. Your dedication to everything Daniel. You've been following and helping a lot. So I really appreciate everything you do. I just pretty much was talking about you just a while ago. When sometimes you get advice from the chats. So that's why these lives are very important too, because I get a lot of things that, I probably wouldn't have thought of. And it comes from people like you, PM channel. So thanks so much. Also, Doug Mack has a question. Again, if anybody had questions, just like Doug Mack. Thank you, Doug, first of all, for your question. Just like Doug here, put the word question before his question. That helps me identify the questions as I'm coming down the comment section. I'm also looking for everyone that's on Instagram if you want to put a question there too. But put the letter Q there, the word question or question mark, that help me identify, like I said, to get your questions. Were both sets of tracks found or notable? I did a video, and I probably would play this too, Matt, Mr. Doug. I had, I have my disagreements with some of those things that was said about what Ken said. Is first of all, and the fact that law enforcement didn't scrutinize the story and just put in their report and just leave it the same. The thing is, when somebody tell me when I came, the part I was left off when I was telling the story of Daniel is when I got there on that mission. I think that one of the parts that really pushed me and had me driving too was the fact I needed to go see Ken. I needed to talk to Ken Elliott in his face. I needed to talk to him in his face because what I heard from law enforcement is outside the character of my son. I mean, the things like, hey, he first of all, he somehow left the first well site and to make it to the second, and all of a sudden he's sleepy. My son's personality is like this. He would have called in if he was that sleepy. He wanted to go back to Phoenix to rest. The other part was to the fact that he said Phoenix, he lives in Tempe. They say he said Phoenix, he lives in Tempe, and I didn't think about that until later on. But when he said he stayed left of those tracks not to disturb them, and he identified Daniel's tracks out of all the thousands of tracks that goes through to that well site. When I say thousands, it's a lot of tracks. And what I did is a video after the monsoons in Arizona and things like that. And a lot of these things do not get washed away. So what I'm saying is, even right after rain and you drive, those tracks pretty much look the same. So his identifying that those tracks belong to Daniel after 15 minutes, only 15 minutes so far is what he said they was at that well site. and it was already raining, what was to say that was one of his tracks or somebody else's tracks or whatever the case may be? Because when you go down and you actually out there in that desert on that terrain, the where that dirt is made and or the sand or whatever you call it, it makes me question his whole idea that he actually can follow those tracks. And the fact that he told me stay left of those tracks, not to disturb them, it was no room in those little trails to be able to do that. So it's a lot of things that is to stand out. So with both of those tracks you said was found, it's a lot of tracks found. You know, I can go back. I've been doing desert searches out there for straight 50 weeks now to this year, 2025 is straight 50 weeks of desert searches. And I can tell you, we can go back out into where Daniel's vehicle was found, and we'll see some of our tracks that we have with our UTVs and ATVs and some of these other Jeeps and things like that. It's still on the ground after all the rain. So I'm saying is I don't see how they saying the rain washed away some of the tracks, or the rain caused him to be able to see this track right here when there was multiple tracks. And I'm telling you, I've done the whole video, and I probably would play it here, and so everybody can actually see it for yourself. And you can say, well, how after this little time these tracks look fresh, like they was just made yesterday. So what I'm saying is, no matter what trail I take, no matter what area I go, the tracks that we know we crossed over to make just to get to a certain point, they remain there. They kind of almost get like imprinted into the dirt. But that's something else when it comes to that. But thanks so much for that question. I do have Dana Whitman. Thanks so much for being here. I haven't kept up with wow anything new, and I would get there, Miss Whitman. Like I said just a while ago, I will be doing some more live streams, and I see you, Katrina. Thank you. I see you on the Instagram side. I'll address that question in a minute. Yeah, I'll be doing some of these lives again, so I can start updating people, everyone, all of you, what's currently going on. Because, like I said, what I was alluding to earlier is that I need your help, and that's why I'm coming in, because many know I'm running for Congress, and my congressional run came from my son, my efforts to find my son, my efforts to help anybody who have missing loved ones right now, help your family. I crafted some legislation, and I'm not even a congressman yet, to try to help families. So what I'm saying is, I'm busy trying to do that. It's a very busy thing trying to do that, trying to pivot from being a regular old retired military guy who has a missing son and try to get into politics to make something happen for missing Americans and so on. It's difficult. It's the time space is, it just don't work together. So sometimes that's the reason why I wasn't on here for a long time. For those who just see me on the live again from a long time, it just the time allotted for me to do this is very short. So, but thank you so much, Ms. Whitman. Thank you, I appreciate it. I have not a comment, but I'm gonna do this real quick because I want to get back into the story, and then I'm gonna do the comments, and then and the questions. And I'm gonna highlight your Mr. Whitman, Mr. James, Arizona. I'm gonna highlight your comment, and then I'll come back to it. Katrina, question was on Instagram. Are you planning in Katrina? Thank you first of all. You know, we are family, and your loved one, Kaya, is on my mind, and your family. You already know we're very good friends, and I really appreciate you, Katrina, for being here right now. I want to say that first. Thank you so much for supporting me, and I appreciate you. But thank you so much for your question too. Are you planning any in-person events for Daniel before February event in Indy? No, not before February, but I will be in Indy. You already know that. We talk about that. I'll be in Indy for your event, and yes, I'm really looking forward to it. And but yes, since you went ahead and brought that attention, I do have plans for event in Arizona, and that's going to be in possibly May. So those things are being arranged right now for those who are listening. Look out for that. I will be announcing that pretty soon. Just trying to put the little small points together. Try to give everyone a heads up, because it's going to be two events. One going to be in Tempe, and the other is going to be, it should be a 2-day event in Tempe, and then the other would be in Buckeye. And it's going to be right here where this vehicle was found. So that's the second one. So those who live in West Valley most likely would like to attend the one here. The ones who live in the East Valley, east side of Phoenix, will probably would like to go to Tempe and or you're in Phoenix itself. Or you can do both, you know. But they were two different type events, but it's all dedicated to missing Americans. But my son Daniel, and even the thought of that, it'll be going on 5 years next year that my son has gone missing, and so I have some thoughts and things I have to take care of when it comes to that, and that's going to be really tough. So you guys will hear about that pretty soon. But yeah, to answer your question, no, I'll be there in February. I'm looking forward to it too, Katrina. I really appreciate you. Yeah, to get back a little bit, really quick, I want to put some pictures up real quick. Could you imagine if you were getting a phone call about your love and your child, your child? You know, sometimes I get it. People say, "Oh, your son was older. He's in his 20s, his early 20s, he's a grown man, and he went missing." You know, that is this. He's my child. He's my son. And you know, I was a single parent, for instance, and one of the things that, you know, with parents, period, my mother, you know, hey, I'm still her child. You know, we already know as parents what we are, how our children are to us, right? So when you see this, you wants to go out the scene, and this is not all the pictures, but there's so many pictures out there already. Let me see if I can get this back up right the correct way. But there's so many pictures already that I would like to. Let me see if I can move this so you guys can see this picture I want to show you. But if you come to a scene and you have to see this, and you see your loved one, your child, vehicle lying on its side, right? I mean, I haven't seen it at the scene like this, but this is the pictures I've gotten, right? And when I first saw Daniel's vehicle, it was upright, but it was at the police station, and it looks a lot worse than what it is right here on this picture, for instance, because it's actually sitting upright, and I had to look at it. And from a parent's point of view, of course, you see something like this, you think the worst quick. My son got hurt, something bad happened to him, you know, all of that kind of stuff. And it blows your mind. It blows your mind immediately. I never forget when Detective Biffin showed me Daniel's vehicle for the first time at that compound. And so one thing I want to point out with this vehicle again, this is the vehicle sitting on the side. And one of the things that the rancher pointed out, for instance, who took pictures as well, is that Daniel's boot, one of his boots was tucked up under that vehicle. It kind of stuck, the front end of it, he said, was stuck up under the hood. So you can see it there, which I can point out to you guys so you can see it better. But it's right there. And the other part of that is that metal square thing that you see there, that is to come off the roof of the vehicle, the sunroof. That's a panel. And you listen to what Buckeye them said. They said, "Oh, the vehicle flipped and rolled and all this kind of stuff." But that panel is stuck up under there, as well as that boot. And the initial story was that somehow that sunroof, Daniel kicked his way out of the sunroof, and that's who's on the glasses on the ground, right? That's what they say. But everybody knows Jeep Renegades do not have glass for a sunroof. They just have panels, and then you literally have to use a key to take that panel off, right? So they have a key that's stationed in the back of the vehicle near the spare tire, right, section. And so it's a couple things with this picture, but this is the point I was saying. If you've seen this, let's imagine it was an officer's vehicle lying on the ground, and it was laying across a ravine. And I can tell you this ravine on the picture, it looks really flat, but if you're out there out there at the scene, you can see that this ravine is actually a 20-foot drop down into that ravine. And so you know, if you see this on the crime scene, that's what I call it. And this is not Daniel's vehicle. This is a police vehicle, right? And then they found the police officer's clothing lying on the ground. His uniform, his wallet, his pants, pulled inside out to, I mean, you name it. What would you expect to see at this point? You want to see officers sitting up there at the top of the hill, scratching their behinds or something, whatever they're doing. You would actually see crime scene tape around here. Excuse me, crime scene tape here. Matter of fact, he wouldn't have just seen two officers and a UTV, right? You would have seen several officers, helicopters, probably medical personnel. I mean, you name it, dogs, you name it, for that one officer. So that's one of the things that's always been pointed out. But you look at this picture as well. You probably could look above. You see the safety jacket. You'll see the pants. Inside out, you see the wallet stuff sitting there. I have plenty of other pictures I will be sharing off and on. But tonight I was putting this live stream together really quickly, and I didn't put but a few pictures here. But that's one of the socks that was found on the scene. Now I hear Buckeye say they found a pair of socks, but I haven't seen a picture yet that had a pair of socks. Maybe I'm looking at the picture wrong, but I can tell you my investigator later on found the other matching sock to the sock that you see over there near the well site. So that was another thing to even just point out. So I have little questions, like I said, when it comes to the scene when you see the vehicle, like I said, is sitting on the side, is on the lying on the passenger side of the ground, and lying on the side. And so we start seeing all of this right here, and the fact that during the time when I was out in the desert, and I was already in the desert, you guys, and when this happened, that vehicle showed up on July 19th. I probably was on my, I want to say sixth search or something. I'm not sure, but I was on many of searches, right? When I say many of searches, we were doing it all, not just on the weekend. That was the public search. We just call that the public search. So when you hear me say, oh, I've been doing searches for 50 weeks, that's only counting the weekends. But we also had searches doing out the week. We have people going out every day. I have one name, her name is Penny. She's out there all the time. She's probably out there now. Penny does a lot to try to help look for Daniel. So, but it's a lot of searches been going on. Not including the city searches that I had when I leave this desert, I go straight into the city. That's the things I never ever mention in the public eye. But those who listen to me now that have been a part of the city search, I want to give them some thank you too, because every week was almost like 40, 50 weeks of city search and flyer distribution. So there's a lot of money and a lot of things going around to get this stuff done. And so it was just like a one stationary thing. Oh, we're just out in the desert and that was it. So what I'm saying is we have people on the ground when this vehicle showed up. And I promise you, everyone, I wouldn't doubt that the people on the ground would actually pass this area. So that's why I know this vehicle wasn't there for 30 days like law enforcement wants us to believe, for one thing, because we're doing these things called hasty searches away from that well site, because that's the only thing we can go by at the time. We didn't have no vehicle. We just had the information from Ken. We had the information from, certain things, and we just use our, some people have skills. They like to go hiking. So I had sometimes 200 people out there, and nobody saw this vehicle, to make a long story. And so, but when this vehicle showed up there and it was sitting in this so-called ravine, and law enforcement wanted to cover it behind and say it was out there for 30 days, we just didn't see it. They say they did a search. They say, oh, we did this search with Civil Air Patrol. And I can't say they did with Civil Patrol. Civil Air Patrol had 4 vehicles that went out to go look for pickup trucks. And they had one fixed wing aircraft that was flying over. I was witness that because I was on Sunnyvale Parkway, though they didn't want me to come on the desert. They made me stay out on the road. But they claimed they flew over this area and they didn't see any vehicle there, right? And so later on, they say, oh, we just missed it because the vegetation was too high or something. But if you look at this picture, what vegetation was hiding this vehicle from an aerial view, first of all, and then from the ground view, as you can see here, you cannot miss a blue vehicle. There's nothing blue in it. It was staying out, nothing blue in the desert, but that vehicle. You can see the safety vest is out there in the desert from the aerial view. The pictures that you guys seen that I put out here from the Buckeye Police Department when they, according to the rancher who was out there today when they said they did their search for Daniel after this vehicle showed up, he said they had no planes and helicopters, they had drones. But it's kind of ironic when I did that FOIA request with the Buckeye Police Department and to Chief Hall, and they told me they're going to give me all the pictures and stuff they took at that scene. Everything they have gotten, it was no mention in that whole bulk, and I still have it on their flash drive. It was not this, and this I'm telling you, this is a flash drive right here that they gave me. And what I'm saying is, there was nothing that shows any evidence of them having helicopters or dogs out there. So in front of pictures and things I have. So what I'm saying is, even with the drone footage, you can see that vehicle sitting there clear as day. You can see it better. You can even see the officers standing there with black uniforms on. You can see them too. So it wasn't no missing the vehicle if it was really there. So, but anyway, I'm going a little ahead of myself. But the thing is, if you see your loved one's vehicle sitting on the side, like I said, see these type things, you automatically gonna say, hey, look, this from pictures. I didn't get all these pictures at the time, but the one picture I had was enough to say, hey, look, we need to look deep dive deeper into what happened to my son. Buckeye Police Department decided to say, hey, well, we know it was there for 30 days because of this, a hard hat. That was a hard hat filled with rainwater. That they say it was filled with rainwater. It was raining that hard in Arizona. It was filled with rainwater. But the question I always have is, okay, so all the water came in that vehicle. First of all, it's lying on the side. If you guys can remember, I wish I would have put different pictures up, but it was lying on the side, right? On the side here. I'm gonna put this picture up so it can help me a little bit. I'll have better pictures next time. I have all the pictures so we can talk about this detail. But the only opening in this vehicle at the time was where this panel is that you see on the ground. That's the sunroof, and then the driver's door glass is broken. The driver's door glass is missing, right? And if the rain was coming up from any angle, and the orientation where this hat was located, right, there was no way that rain would have made it down to fill that up. And the other part is everything else looked dry. They said, oh, then after I started mentioning that fact, then they start telling the public, well, we seen evidence of water damage in the vehicle, right? But there wasn't no water damage talk before I said that on my lives and streams, and they put that in a report. What it is, when you look at all the pictures that I have, and I will, like I said, share those, you don't see any evidence of any rain damage at all. The airbags don't look damaged from water. And if anything would have collect water, the window on that's facing the ground that didn't get broken out would have collected water in that little well puddle area. There was no water. I mean, I'm sure it would collect more water than this hard hat would have caught, but there's none. There's no water just sitting there, no standing water sitting there. So those are the issues that I have when it came to, again, a little closer look. The other part is that Ishmael Lopez card you see in the hard hat, that was problematic for me because it didn't look right. It looked almost like somebody just poured the water in there and meant to pull that card out or whatever the case may be. Because when I did I don't know if it's y'all can try this at home, but when I did people that know me, I always collect business cards from people. No matter where I go, I'll just say, hey, look, if you see a business card, it's almost like some people like to collect ink pens. I do a little bit of that too. But they like business cards. I like get business cards. So I had a plenty of them over the years. I have a lot of business cards, right? And so I did what I call as business card test. When I would take my backyard, I had these buckets. I did some because South Carolina, if you want to talk about rain, it don't rain in Arizona. Me and my team, we argue about that all the time. And I've lived out there for this time when I was searching for Daniel. I seen some rain. I can admit that, but not the kind of rain. I call it bird pee. In South Carolina, we actually have rain. So I had buckets, and I let some of it collect rainwater here in South Carolina. Others I put my own water in, but ultimately I test multiple cards, different type cards. And the reason why I kept testing these cards is because what I found is it depends on what type of ink they're utilizing, what kind of coating on that business card is how the response I would get from the card sitting in the water over a period of time. I can say even less than 5 days, all the cards separated in some form. I mean, no matter how it was coated. There's 2 layers to that card, so they always separate. The bottom layer always separate from the top, and some depending on what kind of ink they're used to actually print, some of them fade off, the lettering fade. But this Ishmael card, for instance, may be like some of the ones I found who had like almost like a wax coating on it. It would keep the writing and the ink intact, but the bottom and everything would start dissolving away, right? And so when I look at this card, it was too intact for me, for law enforcement to say, oh, that was 30 days. You know, I seen the cards detached in 5 days. So and so what I'm saying is it's hard for me to believe that logic from law enforcement, right? So it's things like that. It's things like that. So when I in terms of course it's gonna be my son, I'm gonna look deep dive. And some people say, oh no, you just have a suspicions or a bias because he's your son. And you know, I can say yes. No, for me, I was like more so I'm gonna be more invested in what happened to my son because he's my son. And so I'm gonna look at every details that I can find. And Katrina, I see you have somewhere say the other sock was found at the site he was working. Well, it was a few, not right directly at the site, Katrina, where the second sock was found. It was found a few hundred, I say a few thousand feet away, if you want to put it in those terms, away from the well site. But it was ultimately in that area of the well site where the sock was found that matches the sock, what I just showed you right here on the scene above those pants there. So how I get there, law enforcement won't talk about it. Like I was saying, anytime it's something that would say contradiction to their story, they won't put it in the police report. So, but anyway, to get back to that card, yeah, it was a separation. And I'm sorry, you guys, I didn't put her question up on the screen. Anybody on Instagram, your comments and things like that won't show up on the screen unless I change screens. They don't automatically come up unless you're on Facebook, Facebook or Twitter, one of those YouTube. So I apologize for that, but I can't see your questions, and I will get to them if I see them. And you know, so that was the problem I had with this car. But the other part is when I went to see this vehicle for the first time, that was on July 19th. The vehicle was found. They said it was out there that morning, did all the searching and all this kind of stuff. And they did tell the rancher for that reason. This Buckeye Police Department, and he's testifying. He said even on Fox. You guys saw Fox Missing Americans. Fox, what is called America Most Wanted Missing Persons, right? And my son's case was one of the featured cases, the first case they was talking about. And we had the rancher on there. You look at that episode 1. You guys check it out. But one thing that the rancher said, and he told me this many times before, is that law enforcement told him when that vehicle was found that day right here on the scene, his wife, he called his wife, and his wife told him, say, yeah, that's the vehicle they was talking about and looking for, blah, blah, blah. So he called law enforcement. He gave him the tag number and said, yes, that's the vehicle that they was looking for. And he said when they came out on the scene, the first thing they told him, do not alert the media, do not alert the family. Don't tell the family, don't tell nobody that this vehicle was found. Don't alert the family. Now, it was offensive to me to find that out because, again, I was on that ground searching hard, finding other human remains. We found by that time, I think right after this vehicle showed up, the vehicle showed up before, but we was going to find a human skull that we found, right? And so on the ground finding human remains, I'm searching hard for my son. We was on a rescue mission at the time because it wasn't in full month yet, even though I was really didn't want to concede to the fact that, nobody living in snoring desert, 118 degrees, without food, water, socks, shoes, and just butt naked walking around in the desert. We was out there for hours looking for rescue as a rescue mission. We looked for prospect mines where he could have fell into, or there's all kind of stuff. And so for them to tell the rancher not to alert me on this, don't let him, to make sure you don't tell that father that his vehicle's found out here. That's a problem for me. That was a problem. I asked them why they did that. They told me they didn't want to disturb my sleep. A man who's been out there every day with my binoculars every weekend with volunteers up to that point that vehicle's found. You trying to tell me I'm sleeping? A person who's been on social media trying to get my son's story out there on a national level for 3 straight months. Working hard, not getting sleep. Luckily, get 2 hours of sleep. And you think I was sleeping? So, and he knew that. I talked to Detective Biffin, and so long story. The thing is though, the vehicle showed up. He called me and said, hey, you know, the vehicle, we found the vehicle, your son's vehicle. Of course, my idea would have been that, you know, I could say it like this, exactly how I felt. I didn't want to hear about the vehicle. I wanted to hear about what happened to my son, right? And that was my attitude when he told me that. You know, I was bracing myself for some bad news, because you say, oh, I found your son's vehicle. I thought the next thing was going to be some bad news or something. But, you know, he said they didn't find Daniel. He literally told me that and I record myself talking to him, so I have all the stuff on tape. But he told me that, you know, yeah, we found your son's vehicle, and pretty much, you know, they didn't find him at all. They say he used some type of search dog and yeah, search dog or something like that, tracking dog or something to that fact. And they didn't see any footprints leading away, or I mean, he said footprints for a reason. I didn't know at the time, but he said didn't see any footprints leading away from the scene. The dogs didn't track nobody leaving away from the scene, and you know, those type things. So, but then he offered for me to come down to the police station in Buckeye. I was in Phoenix. I was living in Phoenix at that time in the hotel. And yeah, so of course I made it there. Got there really quick because he said he wanted to brief me on what they found. Got there, he wouldn't let me inside the building, but he met me in the parking lot through a folder on top of his hood of his truck, his police vehicle, and he started going through the pictures that you guys seen before. One of these pictures, not the great quality picture like this one, but he actually was telling me about, showed me the picture, and I'll be honest, when I first saw it lying on the side, it bothered me really bad, right? So it took a while for him to actually get through it because I was going through a state. But he explained to me that it was found in a certain area. Being a military guy, he was showing me some mapping because he know that I can understand maps. And though I understood maps, I still want to know where. And so he said eventually, you know, he's telling me, oh, the vehicle flipped and twisted and stuff. And your son, the good part is that your son, we believe he didn't sustain an injury because he had a seatbelt and you know, and things like that. But once he got through explaining what his theories were, which were not great theories, you know, things like, you know, some animal got him, you know, his heart and brain injuries and stuff like that. You know, after he explained all of that stuff to me, his next idea was for me to go follow him and to see this vehicle the first time. He said, hey, we'd like to see this vehicle. When he said that, I thought he was taking me to the scene. Thought he was taking me here. No, they was taking me down the street to a compound. They took this vehicle off the scene. And so when I got there, of course, the first thing he said to me, they let me in the back. They let me park in the front, and he let me through a side gate. Once I got through the gate, he stopped me as we walk in. He said, hey, Mr. Rouse, I've seen things like this before. He went and told me some story about some woman who the family thought she was missing. She turned out that she ended up going to be a nun. And he said, well, you know, not necessarily saying it, but maybe your son just wanted to be away from you and your family and joined a monastery and became a monk, you know. And when he said that to me, it took me about a shock, but at the same time, I was already in my brain kind of just embracing myself to see this vehicle for the first time. So I heard him. It kind of shook me, but I didn't know what he really meant by that. And then he went to open this gate. And then he pointed out to the vehicle. I seen that vehicle the first time, you guys. I mean, and when I say devastating, it was a devastating sight. It didn't look like the scene. The scene, of course, is very kind to, when I say kind, it's kind compared to what you see it sitting upright. And so, of course, he from afar, he pointed, because there was a whole bunch of vehicles they had out there. He said, hey, you go and go check it, go see your son's vehicle. You can go look into it or whatever. And I didn't know which one, so he pointed it out. I said, that's your son's vehicle over there. When I saw it, like I said, I was devastated. When I saw it, I was shocked. I couldn't. It's like my muscles in my body froze up. I couldn't even move. Right? And he said, yeah, go on over there and look in the vehicle. You know, I wouldn't move, so he started walking, and then I started walking with him. We got to the vehicle about 3 feet away. He's like, yeah, go and open the door and take a look inside and stuff for whatever reason. And I didn't move, so he opened the door himself. No, he told me to lift the airbags. That's what, lift the airbags and go in there, something to that effect. I wouldn't move, and then he lifted himself and held it up in the air, and I could see kind of through that broken glass what's going on inside the vehicle. And he said, yeah, go on in and check it out or something. And I didn't move, so he opened the back door, and when he opened the back door, the first thing I saw was this. and this picture that I'm gonna put up here. First thing I saw, this is not at the police compound, but this is the NYPD bag I was talking about to everyone that's been doing the live. The first thing I saw was that the NYPD bag. I said, so that's what caught my attention because we are in Arizona. Now I can't say what when the hindsight looking back at it, but I wonder where that bag come from. But anyway, I said, what is this? He said, oh, I don't know what it is. And he just unzip it and start pouring the contents out of it on the floorboard at the police compound. And so, I mean, just treat it just like that. He didn't treat my son's vehicle as a potential some more evidence that can be looked into, or crime, or anything. So that let me know already. Hindsight now, Buckeye had their mind already set that they had no reason to look for anything, right? So, but I did see that bag, and so once he shook all the contents out, he tried to get me to look again. I happened to know some baggies on the floor. I asked him what those were. He said he didn't know. It's like these Ziploc bags with a bunch of dirt or something in them, right? I later found out hindsight, of course, that's part of Daniel's job. He go out and get these things called cuttings from the well sites. When they go down and drill, they had to pull back so many layers of dirt, or you could say, or soil that's down in the earth, and they can tell by the sediments what type of like bedrock to whatever. It's the science, the whole science of what my son does. And so they kind of can know, I guess, the levels of where those water's at, if they're drinkable water, this, that, blah, 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 that kind of stuff. And so those cuttings, you probably can see, if they look real good, you can see a green next to that shoe right here in this picture, Ziploc type thing. That's one of the bags, for instance. There's a lot of them. And so that's when you look at the whole vehicle, and that vehicle turned over like that, I'm sure a lot of them bags bust open and dirt all over the place. But the thing is, that's what he did. They sent me those, and so what I'm saying is, everyone, it was really problematic. So I'm gonna stop there in the story. I'm gonna go to some of the questions, and then I'm gonna jump off this live because I've been on live stream for a long time, and I do really long-winded stuff, and everybody know me. I have a way of not knowing how to get off of things too quickly. So I just want to go ahead and go through some questions, but to remind everybody, my goal is to, like I say, do some more lives. I'm trying to make sure I get my picture back up here. I do some more live streaming. Oh, there I go. All right. We're gonna do some more live streaming, and that's gonna be I'll try to do this every Friday, outside of my campaign and stuff I'm doing. And so if you guys want to join in with me every Friday, I'm gonna try to do it at a time that I think everybody can be on. And what I do is always keep people in Arizona in mind. 3 hours away, but it'd be 2 hours. So if I was to do it at 7 or it'll be 8 o'clock our time here on the East Coast. It could be 6 o'clock for people out west. Give them time to be home from work or whatever they got to do. So I'm thinking about 8 o'clock p.m. Eastern time every Friday, or maybe 7. I'm just going to debate and see which ones work out. But I would like you all to come back and join and hear about Daniel's case, to help me share his story, help me keep his story alive. I took a lot of energy for my son, and it's something I would do again. A lot of efforts to fight for my son, and then it transferred over to a lot of efforts for other families out there. Like I said, crafting this legislation. The good news about the legislation as well, it's being pushed in January here in South Carolina. Y'all hear me talk about that. There's a lot of people out there now have legislations that they feel is kind of close to what I'm looking for in this legislation on Daniel Robinson's law. It just some things that take us a lot further when it comes in terms of some things that I know we need here in this country. So I can't say I wrote it for to be a state law. That's why I'm pushing it here in South Carolina. I have a senator who now we're trying to get it on the floor in January session. And then I have a federal form of that I plan to take with me once I win in November next year, to take it to Congress with me. So to get it done nationally, right? I'm gonna try to push really hard. So what I'm saying is I have a lot of work that I'm doing. I'm really busy. And, so if you guys don't see the lives, and no, I didn't move on from my son. I would never will move on from my son. Common sense stuff, of course. People say, hey, I see people all the time, like, when is your next search for your son out in the desert? I don't have any plans to do any searches out there right now. And the plans would be based on new evidence that I find, funding, of course, because there's always been places that could be searched and that have never been searched that we had part of our grid. Believe it or not, after 50 weeks of searches, there's places that haven't been touched. And, that always in my mind, what if you'd have did that spot first, so I can go down the rabbit hole and think like that, and run yourself crazy and make you feel guilty somehow you missed something. At the same time, I had to be logical about it and say, you know what, it costs money to do searches. It costs time, people, all this kind of stuff. So I had to be very strategic when I decided to do another search. So right now I don't have any in the working. I can tell you that, unless you hear me say I have a search coming up, you best believe it's a reason. And right. So that's one thing for sure. But I definitely need you guys to continue help for everything I am doing, trying to push, like I said, this legislature, trying to push the win to get in Congress so I can do some work. I'm really still needing your help for all kind of other reasons. I have that $70,000 debt I still have because of all things Daniel. So what I'm saying is, everything you guys do helped me out tremendously. I mean, like tremendously, the whole efforts, this foundation I've been pushing, unfortunately, because of financial fundings as well. Dad's is slow moving, not doing anything what I would like for it to do. So I'm really pushing really hard for that. So I mean, it's a lot. There's a lot of things going back and forth, just constantly doing stuff. So, but yeah, come on this live, come on the live stream, hear what I have to say. Share Daniel's story still, please. If you guys can do that means a lot. Oh yeah, and one other thing, I want to put this up real quick because I forget and I want to jump off and I want to see if any more questions, but I want to jump off. I want to share this real quick, and those who've been through it before already know. Daniel Ross, please help find Daniel.com. Please help find Daniel.com. You go to the website, right? And there's a couple things I still need you guys to do. That's sign this petition right here at the top here. Sign this petition, please, because I'm still dealing with law enforcement. So I definitely need you to sign this petition. Volunteer search tab. That's something, like I said, if I ever come up with another search, it would be that. If you want to donate to still help me bring down that depth and also keep me going of my efforts, that's the donation button. If I have an event, which I'm going to have that event, like I said, pushing for an event for May next year, this will be under that events tab. Request the flyers. You still can request flyers, everyone, because I promise you, you can go to. I've been in Tempe. I've been in Buckeye area. I've been in Arizona a few times now, and I promise you, I find people all the time who says, "I never heard about your son's story," and they live in Arizona, but then I can come right here in South Carolina or some other areas, Florida, and someone I've been in Florida for a long time now, but someone would say, "Yeah, I heard of your son's story," right? And so what I'm saying is, it's still room. This is a big country. There's still room to get Daniel's story out there. It's still room to get those flyers out there. Why I need those flyers out there? Because I really believe and truly believe and know there's someone that knows something, right? And the only way they can know that I'm still looking for Daniel or just have a thought, or Daniel himself, I'm an example, is to get those flyers out there and make awareness. Word of mouth is really huge. And if you guys can help me by requesting those flyers, you can do that here. And if you want to help me out financially, because like I said, there is a $70,000 debt stuff going on and all this stuff. You can print those flyers out yourself right here. That's a PDF, the version of it where you can print it out yourself. They help me with funding, without the cost or whatever. Because if anybody printed out anything, it's not cheap. The flyers, the stuff like that, to print out bulk flyers and things, get them done. It's not cheap, so that helps. Also, the mail-in protest. I'm gonna go down here, right here. You come down on the same screen. The mail-in protest is very important. You got I like to call these picket signs. All these things you see here, these are picket signs. These are what I designed these back when I was pressuring Maricopa County Sheriff's Office to take Daniel's case. Sheriff has on since quit, but this was what I was going to use this as the picket signs to do a sit-in at the Maricopa County office and then do a live protest at the Buckeye Police Department. And so what I'm saying is this is what you still can do, and what we're doing instead for those who want to be a part as well. Say, hey, I want to be a part of the protest, but I live in wherever, right? And they want to be a part. And so I came up with the mail-in protest to still protest, but you're doing it in the mail form. And you print out these 5 PTFs, one of the 5, well, all of them if you want to, and mail them in as much as you can. You can get churches, friends, everybody to mail. So my idea was always been to have thousands of these picket signs constantly hitting the police department, so they can never ever forget that we still want justice for Daniel. One thing that stands out to me is my favorite one is here. It said, if Daniel was a cop, what would justice do? What would justice do? We demand the same treatment if Daniel was one of your own. We demand a criminal investigation into the disappearance of geologist Daniel Cornelius Robinson. What do we want? We want justice. When do we want it? We want it now. And so that is one of the picket signs, that one of my favorites that I created. But also the fact that, like I said, you could take all of these and send it to them, and that will keep their attention, let them know, hey, this is not a cold case by any stretch. That's the information. Like I said, I'm going to talk to you guys. I alluded to that earlier, that there's information that I'm really trying to slow talk my displeasure with the Buckeye Police Department again. Because when I did it this time, you guys probably remember April the 10th this year, Mr. Petito came to my search on April 12th. We did a search, and everybody's making this big thing. The Petito's there with me in the search. But before that search, I was actually in the office with the law enforcement, Buckeye Police Department, with Detective Adams is his name, Justin Adams, and he gave us agreements. We did a custody exchange, used body cam footage, video, all the stuff, and I'm going to share that eventually. And we did this custody exchange in the agreement of the things they say they was going to do in Daniel's case. It hasn't been done, right? And what the disappointment part is that that's all I have left of my son. I went in my storage unit. You guys seen that on American Most Wanted Missing Persons when I had to go in that storage unit. Payne Lindsay was asking to, behind the scene, they were asking some things, but I didn't want to let nobody go through anything. That stuff I had to do myself. So it's a very painful process, right? To go through Daniel's things, first of all, and then to let things go. Because when I go let those go, I know I have nothing left, right? So when you start letting those things go, especially when it came to evidence that can prove a case or see what's going on in your loved one's story, you have to trust again. I have no option. I was pinned against the wall. I'm low funded. Don't have any more money to really push into anything. So what do? You trust God at that point, right? And so, long story with that, I feel disappointed because my mindset was, when I decided to do so, is a new investigator. We got Chief Sanders, Robert Sanders, the new police chief that came up after Chief Hall quit, and so I thought of it as being some type of reset with my relationship with the Buckeye Police Department. Giving law enforcement another chance, opportunity to, hey, let's do the right thing. Let's get this thing done. And then I feel like I'm being stabbed again, is what I'm saying. And so having said that, I'm kind of slow walking that sentiment because I never ever, and I never did. And I don't care what people feel. And I know some people so much pro police to their close their eyes and their ears to anything that's to them would seem derogatory against police when it's not. It's factuals. It's two different things when you listen to what law enforcement, they're the officials. So when they write something on a piece of paper, they'll say, this is official document. This has been official. But the same police department got the chief Hall at the time was suspended for that same department falsifying documents, falsifying crime statistics, things like that. So not every time you hear law enforcement, everything written on a piece of paper, on some police report is factual. That's their version. It's always somebody's version, and then there's the truth. Some people say that's two sides of the story. I always say that's three. That's my side, their side, and then there's always the truth, right? And so when I'm telling you something, when you look at things on the ground, it's a different story than what you're reading at police report, for instance, right? So again, that's the major upset for me right now. So what I need you guys to do is please do this mail-in protest. thousands of flyers, let them know, hey, we didn't forget about this case. And his father, he's still fighting. He's just so busy right now trying to make life for other Americans better by running for office. Something I have never done. I'm retired military. I could have easily sat back before my son went missing. What I was trying to do is recover from my time in service, my war experiences and things that was happening. And then I found myself from the desert of Afghanistan into the desert of Arizona looking for my son. And then turned from that, never took a vacation to this day. To this day, just out there, just trying to help other families and trying to push myself really hard to learn more about politics, just to get some legislation done for missing American cases. All these thousands of Americans go missing every year. For instance, I'm using an example. That's one thing. That ain't the only thing, the reason why I'm running, but what I'm saying is that's a big major bulk of what caused me to run in the first place, right? And so when you got all that going on in your mind, yeah, I need all the help I can get. I need all the help I can get from everybody who's listening right now. Like, say, tell people about this, what's going on. Tell people about Daniel's story. Tell them about what I'm trying to do. I really need everybody to join in and help me with that. So mail-in protest is really one of the biggest highlights for me to, and the reason why I say, I know it costs money. Again, when you guys pick one of these 5 PDFs and you click on one and you printing out these things, it's not cheap. And trust me, I know printing out anything, even on your printers at home, because that's what this mainly is. You know, printing at home on your printer, it's not cheap. You got to pay for your ink and all the stuff. Trust me, I put thousands of flyers all across this country, and I'm still putting flyers out. You know, and so I know the bills. One box of flyers a week. I'm easily spending $500 or so a week, and I've showed you guys on the live before some of the receipts from Arizona when I was printing those flyers out. And it's a lot of money go out every week just to get flyers out there all over the place. So it's not cheap, is what I'm saying. And so again, I need your help with that kind of stuff. You know, it helped lowers the cost. But this right here, the mail-in protest, is a little different. It helped keep law enforcement from moving on from Daniel's case. But I want to put this up, Mr. James. I told you I was going to do that. Let's see if I can. You said, I feel like the city of Buckeye is covering this case up because they don't have they don't want bad publicity, and for the new housing development, which is partially owned by Jerry Colangio, former owner of the Phoenix Sun and Arizona Diamondbacks. These developers and politicians only care about money, sadly. Every law enforcement and private investigator days is a known area for drug trafficking. They want people to coming in and out of the state to buy housing to believe it is safe, and I can agree with that, and a lot of that. Well, most of all of that, and the reason why I say that, well, I can say I agree with all of that, and certain sentiment, right? Because first of all, when I say I kind of had a little smart, I don't know anything about Jerry. I do not say his last name from the Phoenix Sun, the owners and stuff like that. I just know about how he used corporations and, you know, like I said, the big money that's into those development, and the fact that the Buckeye Police Department have a history aligned by crime statistics to keep, like you said, Buckeye city of Buckeye to seem like it's safe. I heard out of Chief Hall at the time, who was trying to, in my opinion, cover up as well. Try to sell me the story that my son's vehicle was found at the scene for being there for 30 days. Trying to sell that story to me, was saying, pointing down to talk about how bad the cartels is out that area and how they land on Sun Valley Parkway somehow and drop their drugs and fly back over to Mexico. And you know, and I do know from many people don't know, I had other private investigators. Jeff McGrath was the only private investigator. I had some what I like to call silent private investigators as well, who deals directly with things like the cartels and stuff like that, would say, hey, you know, these are the areas, the zones where there's human trafficking, where my son was missing, and the drug, and it runs straight through Phoenix, as a matter of fact. So some of those things, yeah, that's very knowledgeable of me. Some things that I had to consider and take into consideration when it comes to Daniel being missing. But yes, I really know that's because a lot of money. Could you imagine everyone, when I was, again, to piggyback on what you're saying, Mr. James, I agree with that because I remember when I first started my website. I used to have a site called Please Help Find Daniel. Was my first website, original. And then also there's a searchfordaniel.org that was created for just the searches for my son, right? I later engrafted that into this one website. I didn't have any use for the searchfordaniel.org any longer. Excuse me. So what I can say is I remember now with the human remains that we found. Now, I'm not a pathologist. I'm not an expert on human remains. I've been in Afghanistan, and trust me, I know I've seen some human remains before, and I hate to be so graphic. But the part is, I still didn't know. I'm not a pathologist. I'm not an expert. When you're in the desert out there, there's a lot of dead things out there. When I say animals eat animals out there. Yeah, we found some dead cattle. Whether it's coyote to animals eat animals in the desert, right? So we run into a lot of bones, and what ended up happening, my website set up this way. It's still set up. The crazy part is still set up that way. So if you was to go, let me pull this back up real quick. If you was to go to pleasehelpfinddaniel.com, and it's still set up, so you be careful. I'm telling everybody, you want to play around with that, you get contacted by the Buckeye Police Department or somebody. I'm thinking about in turn of taking away if I don't use it. But anyway, submit information. You click this button here. This will take you to a page where everything you put on this page will go to the Buckeye Police Department. I have it attached to them right now, even to this day. So it's saying here, notice you are submitting your findings to law enforcement. It's giving you a warning. Anything you put in here. The information submitted from this page disseminated to local law enforcement officer and to private investigative team. That was Jeff McGrath at the time. I took him off. He no longer worked for me. The information is sent in real time. Please use with caution when submitting information. If you have any questions about what you are submitting through this page, please contact someone on the search coordinator team, meaning me. During the time, it was two other people. I'm not going to mention their name here, but they know who they are. And so what I'm saying is you have to use that with caution. Like I said, don't be going there playing some game or whatever you want to say, some crazy stuff. It goes straight to the police department. So that's for people to know that. But what I'm saying is when we put those remains up there, right? How it worked? We found human remains. The rule of my searches were you don't touch anything, don't pick it up or whatever, don't disturb it. You see something that's suspected as something of evidence, human remains or whatever the case may be. It may be animal bones, but we take pictures of it. We only take the pictures of it. You go through the page I just showed you to submit the information. You send a picture to them, and in real time, just like it says right there, it goes straight to the Buckeye Police Department. One copy go to me, one copy go to Buckeye Police at the time, Police Department at the time, and then when Jeff McGrath came on board, I added him to that, and it goes to him too, right? And so we all get it in real time. Make a long story, and then while we're sitting there, I say, okay, once we take the picture, and then we do this thing called a hold, especially doing live, so we do a hold. Take the picture, send it up, and then once we put a hold up, we move on, keep moving on. But while we're doing the search, they would hit me up or McGrath at the time. But before McGrath was there, they hit me up and say, hey, that is a human remain. We'll flag it with a yellow flag and give them the court. They already got the coordination through that thing, and they're supposed to come pick them bones up. That's Buckeye Police Department. So what I'm saying is when they argue me down to this day and y'all in public, again, this is their report versus the reality on the ground. A lot of things that law enforcement say is not the truth. It's just something to make them look good or they did some work or whatever the case may be. But the reality on the ground is the opposite. But nobody's going to believe the man who's a father who's probably in pain or something versus the police department. That's what I'm trying to say. But the reality on the ground was they the ones say this is human remains. So they'll say what type it is. This is a human femur, for instance, right? Now I can use the word femur because that's the one I remember the most. So if you find 3 femurs, I'm using an example, you find 3 femurs, how many bodies are you finding? You're finding 1.5 so far. But then when you find another femur, you can kind of infer, oh, maybe this other femur belongs to that set of femur. But ultimately you can count that as 2 people. So you got 4 femurs, then that means it's 2 people, because only humans have only 2 femurs, right? So that's how we was counting. And then it got up to 7 to 8 human remains. And then when CNN was coming in and said, oh my God, Mr. Robinson found all these human remains, and then it's all in the news. I'm sure they was like, oh my God, we got this development out here. And could you imagine that they said they found all these human remains out here, and we put in development here, and people say, hey, you want to buy a house? And they say, man, you might not want to build a house over there, man. They found out about the dead people over there. You know, you building your house on a graveyard or so. I'm just saying. So that's why I say I agree with you on those areas where money could come in and work with law enforcement to say, we need to bring those numbers down. So that numbers came from Mr. Robinson saying what they gave us by those numbers, 7 to 8 human remains, if you count them all up by bones, for them to say, oh, no, he only found 1 or 2 human remains out there. And then they'll say, well, Buckeye said you only found 2 now. All of a sudden, they changed the story. They moved it. And I'm going to tell you something, you guys. I'm going to share this with you eventually, too. I could say I'm sharing a lot of stuff with you. I'm hesitant on things. But I have an email from the Maricopa County Sheriff's Medical Examiner's office. When it was up in numbers before the news CNN and News Nation started coming in and some of the Dateline and all the stuff, Buckeye was okay with this number, right? Until I had a young lady come on this live, and she says, hit me on the email. She says, Mr. Robinson, don't you know I went on the Maricopa County's medical thing, you know, where those remains went to. And they said the Buckeye Police Department found these human remains, right? And she felt offended because she said, I thought you said y'all did it in your searches, like the volunteers, we found these remains. And so I said, okay, well, let me check it out. Checked it out. She was right. They put it as listed as the Buckeye Police Department went and found these remains. Buckeye Police Department didn't find their own hands in front of their face out there in that desert. So I got offended because I know the sweat and tears and the love and the unity that I have with the searches with the volunteers and the police department getting credit for what we have done. That was a problem, man. So I called them. I called I called them, and I was really upset. The lady said she's gonna look into it, and I have this email today apologizing for the mishap, and they corrected the record to say the volunteers in the search for Daniel Robinson found these human remains, right? And so that's again what I'm saying. But if you look on the police report, it might say something like that. Oh, we found these. They didn't do nothing. I'm telling you. So what you see on the report is not necessarily the truth. So that's another thing. But then to go back again about what you said, Mr. James, yes, I agree with a lot of that. When it comes to big money and things like that, yes, that plays a big part on possibly what law enforcement do and so on and that kind of stuff. So yeah, but anyway, I had to jump off. I keep guys that I get pulled in this, but I want to make sure I get everybody I can. Holly, thanks so much for being here. Adult or not, still your child for eternity. Thank you so much for understanding that. Underage, 24, statistically significant developmentally, yes. And I believe that our brain's still growing. My heart breaks for you and you and all your sons, Daniel's friends and family. Thank you so much. May the Lord's peace be with you all. I continue to pray for the peace that only the Lord can provide for you while you remain waiting for reunification. Thanks so much. I really appreciate that, Holly. That's really, really kind of you. I truly appreciate you. And that's from the Facebook side. And thank you, Messer Lord. I see your comment. Yeah, thanks so much for being here. I truly appreciate you. Thank you from Oregon on the Instagram side. And thank you again, Holly. I really appreciate that. And thank you, Amy, for being here. Thanks so much. I really appreciate it. Everybody I haven't mentioned yet, thank you so much. I'm going to try to squeeze everybody I can. I'm going to try to jump off here. Praying for you and your family. Thank you, Anna. And let's see. Catherine, thanks so much. Praying for you. I really appreciate that. If I'm missing anybody, Tracy, thanks so much for being here. I really appreciate that. I got you right here. I truly appreciate you being here. Tracy, and see what else I got. James, I think I put this up already. There was a subreddit on Daniel's case that's locked down for new comments, but has a lot of good information. Bill Hayes claims and the housing development ownership. Yeah, and and I'm glad you mentioned that. I think I know what you're probably going to allude to. But I have someone that I will be working with, and he's been trying to help me get some. And those are probably good avenues for any content creators who's been my friends. And I have a lot of you guys. If you listen to me tonight, I really want to put a coalition together where you guys can help me on that front while I'm trying to do it, because I just don't have the time. To be honest with you, it's too stressing to try to do a thing. So what I would like to try to put together is us to talk and to collaborate together to talk about those details. And I think I know what you're going to. That is very, very something that everybody should look into and think about when it comes to my son's case outside of what law enforcement pushing. Hayes says he asked Daniel where the shooting area in Wagner Watch was, and Daniel told him. But that was it. It was Daniel's first time there. How would he know? And that's what I pointed out earlier on this live when one of the persons here on her name is She Rose Nation put a comment and asked the same question, and that always was in my head. It's like caused me to look at him as a suspect, because my son had never been in the area, so he wouldn't be able to tell you location. But I can tell you, not on this, because this will take another hour or so for me to talk about. But next time on this live stream, you guys ask that question again, I would tell you what law enforcement told me when they finally talked to Billy Hayes and what all went down from that. And you will be like, you start asking questions about law enforcement. But anyway, also Hayes has been in prison and has multiple drug and weapons charges. He has a felon, and why he is allowed to own a gun, and why he's allowed to get away with impersonating an FBI agent. And that's where I was going to go at, but you said it for me. One of the things that Billy Hayes have done when I first met him, and I'm not saying he did anything, so I don't want nobody saying, Mr. Roberts said he did this. What I'm just generally saying is that sometimes when people do a crime or people heavily know what happened, they're gonna show up at your searches. They're gonna show up at certain things. They're gonna find out what you know. So sometimes you'll be shaking the person's hand who's a corporate to some things. And I'm not saying that, again, that's what he have done. I'm just simply saying when the man showed up, I remember at a search when I first heard of him, he was talking to my coordinator at the time. My coordinator said, "Hey, David, this guy named Billy want to talk to you about." He said he's seen your son. I was like, "Oh, really?" But I was in the midst of trying to get the people on the ground to send him out to different areas. So I say, no, have him go to Jeff McGrath and talk to my investigator, and he can get the information from him. Long story short, he must have talked to Mr. McGrath. Mr. McGrath came back, and during the time when I'm going to back up a little bit, but during the time he did walk up, and he says he's a law enforcement, he's a federal law enforcement officer. That's what he told me directly. There ain't no word of mouth or anything, but he actually had this gold badge on. And he said, "I'm a federal investigator officer." I sent him to my investigator because if they officers, they can understand each other. And then since then, he also came to me several times in the midst of that, after everybody left the search. Now, this was part of one of the spookiest things because myself and young lady, of course, I'm putting I'm always the last man on the ground. This is my thing. I don't leave the desert till I know every volunteer is out that desert, because that's a big, trust me, that we had a couple times we spent hours looking for two people, found out they didn't sign out. They went back to home wherever they live, didn't sign out, and we was out there for 2 hours looking for them just to find out they left and didn't sign out, right? And so my job is to make sure I'm the last one to leave the desert, right? So I was leaving the desert by myself. My search team was gone, but Billy Hayes somehow hung around, and he seemed kind of weird to me, but he's still saying he was this law officer. He kind of tried to help me lock my UTV up on the trailer, and because I had to tighten it back up because I was about to get back on Sun Valley Parkway, and I had to make sure those straps on real tight. But then he had this one thing that stood out to me. He had this really nasty cold or something, but he's talked to me, and he was saying he was a law enforcement officer again. He kept telling me that, But then I was looking at him and the vehicle was driving. I didn't want to judge people. And I said, maybe undercover or something. But that is like deep undercover, the way he was looking. I said, he don't come off as an officer, but, you know, he showed the badge and really confident that he were. Make a long story, he's not a law enforcement officer. Why Buckeye didn't seem to care about all of that stuff. Again, some law enforcement loving, and I'm a law enforcement loving. I'm saying we need law enforcement. I'm not saying in that way. Would say that the Buckeye Police Department did such a great job. That's from outside looking in, from reading a report. But things like that went under the radar. Things like Ken Elliott's story, that he changed the story from 9 o'clock to 9:30, and they fixed that narrative. To say to me directly with notes that I have written at the time with 2 witnesses, my daughter was one, when he said these things to us, and I write them down in notes and give it to law enforcement, and they dismiss it. You will not hear it in the report because it don't match that narrative. Because to have that in the report, then people have to have that question: why didn't you scrutinize Ken's story, for instance, right? So to keep that from happening, they wrote it in their own way. So that's what I'm trying to say. When it's come to on the ground situations versus what law enforcement write, it's 2 different things. So that's when we start looking at other law enforcement, where there's Charlotte Police Department officers I talked to. I have one police department, a former officer on my team, to all over the state, all over the country. When they hear certain things, and these are other officers, they would say it sounds like a cover up, right? So and they're familiar. They're officers themselves. They're familiar with certain things when it comes to misconduct of law enforcement. And what I'm saying is that's what happened in my son's case, and that's why I was so forceful. I think the only protection I have, and I'll be honest with you guys, because I had death threats. Can you imagine searching for your son and you're out there on the ground and you have to look over your shoulder because someone said they're watching you, and there's gonna be bloodshed if you don't do what I tell you to do, and they pretty much gonna kill you. And I had to deal with hundreds of volunteers on the ground. I'm a lot of times and I'm not making a racial thing, but I'm a sole Black person on the ground with the climate of things that goes around in our country. I was afraid of many days, but what kept me there, when I say afraid, I was watchful. I'm a military guy. I have to wash hands all the time. I always got my issues from my time at war. We don't like crowds, but I'm dealing with crowds. So make a long story, and you got a death threat. I remember when, a person for me, a military guy, want to try to get away from the days of carrying weapons and things like that. And so I remember my investigator, after it started happening, he gave me his weapon, to carry, because he said to me that, this is Arizona. And, he had to talk sense in my head. I didn't want to carry. I didn't want to carry at all. So you guys see the videos and CNN, all I got this sidearm and all kind of stuff. I didn't want to carry. I had to carry, But what I'm saying is, even with that, for those who said law enforcement did such a great job, I had death threats. I went to the FBI about it. I gave them the emails. They just did a report, and they pushed me off and said, you need to go through the Buckeye Police Department since you got a case with your son, and they need to invite us in to, I guess the way they put it, to look into who's trying to kill me, right? I did all of the process of that, talked to the Buckeye Police Department, tell them what's going on. They, to this date, did nothing. So that's why I had to carry. Nothing about it. Didn't want the FBI to get involved. Nobody cared about who was trying to get me, all that kind of stuff, right? So what I'm saying is, I had to go through all that pressure just to go out there and try to search for my son. So, and they call that good police work. Yeah, it depends on how you look at it. It depends on if you have a bias for police work versus somebody who's saying, hey, look at this misconduct. Look at this thing that's going on wrong. And I probably come off as this man who's anti-police or something. I don't know. When I, in fact, have police officers in my family, I myself was going to be a law enforcement officer when I was going to get ready to go to college, right? And I went to apply for the academy. My stepbrother at the time kept going. Now he's a retired officer. So long story short, I'm not anti-police at all. but I'm anti-corruption. I'm anti-laziness, especially when it comes to my own son. You know, all that stuff. I'm anti all of that. And I can tell you up front, and it might come off as I'm that way. No, I'm just telling you the facts and the truth. And I'm unapologetic for it. So long story, they said somebody came on the live and said, well, you know, they might feel this way you've been to. I'm like, I don't care about feelings. I don't care about law enforcement feelings. You don't get a job as a law enforcement officer. You don't get a job as a military. You don't swear, put your right hand up and say, I'm defending the Constitution of the United States from foreign domestic enemies to somehow worry about your feelings. You know, I mean, like, no, it ain't about your feelings and it ain't about you. It's about doing your job, right? That you swore to do, right? So again, that's why I say I look at law enforcement the same way. If you can't handle some ridicule or somebody saying something about what you're doing wrong, don't be an officer. It's not made for you. That job is not made for you. If you're scary, we had rules of engagement in the military. We just couldn't go down and shoot somebody. They got the word Taliban on their shirt. We couldn't shoot them down. You're in the wrong job. You're in the wrong profession. So what I'm saying is that's the kind of stuff. So again, if you guys hear me sound like that with law enforcement, I'm not anti-law enforcement at all. We need law enforcement. We need good law enforcement also. And there's a lot of good ones out there. Trust me, because I have one on my team. I have one family member. I have this all around the place. So some good ones out there. But it's also, I don't like to say bad apples because that's not the word I like to use. But there's some people in departments who's not doing the right thing. And Buckeye's one of them that haven't been doing the right things. And I think I'm about to get off everybody. So Misty, thanks so much again. Did you ever get the canals near the crash site ever get searched? Yes, I did a lot of canal work there. But not if you're saying actually looking into the canal itself, no. Outside the fence, yes, because they have these big tall fences there. You probably aware of that out in that desert area because that's the infrastructure, and so that's well protected. Let me see. Someone says I live in Buckeye, and thanks so much, Mary. I live in Buckeye and never heard that many were found, if at all. I only heard about the ATV gal finding one person remains. Unfortunately, I'm not surprised. And you know, and the one you're talking about, yes, that's Penny. I hope she don't mind me saying her name, but yes, that she's one of the friends of mine who she probably, like I said earlier on this live, she's probably out there right now, as far as I know. Penny, she's really passionate about trying to help find Daniel, and she's out there and she ended up finding that what you were speaking. But yes, it was a lot more before that happened, of course. Yeah, you wouldn't hear about it because yes, of course they're gonna downplay it down some. So have you spoken to the new James? Thank you. Sheriff, yes, I tried. I reached out to the sheriff and he gave me a generic letter. I would like to share that with you guys too. It's a lot worse with the new sheriff. Pizzone was the closest to being the decent sheriff, and he's a very good sheriff in my opinion. He didn't keep his promise to get Dane's case moved over to his department, but he did the search that I asked him to do. Sheriff Pizzone had I went there one time to talk to him. He actually gave me the time of the day, sat in his office. We talked for a long time. He pulled me to the side and he prayed with me. He gave me, I still got it. It's a rosary, I think, for Catholics. I think that's the name they call it, the rosary. He told me to keep that. And, you know, so make a long story, I had great, I like Sheriff Pizzone. I just was difficult for me to see that he didn't keep his word when it came to some other things. But ultimately being a decent person, yeah, very decent. But then when he quit abruptly before his time was up, he's elected official. They had brought in another one. I forgot his name, but he sent me this generic. I'm glad he lost his because I was really pushing for people not to vote for him. But I don't know this new one. I've reached out to Maricopa County since, and they won't even give you a hello back, or if they need you to get a generic letter. So eventually, like I said again, you guys financially and all the stuff, I can't run back and forth to Arizona like I would like to. And so my goal is when I just did an event with the Missing American Network. You guys probably saw that. I laughed. I was on there for a day and a half for that event, and and my team laughed because I squeeze in every little thing I can. I'm telling you guys, when y'all guys had donated, for instance, when I did my last search, I squeeze in my take my son's stuff apart, and that was painful. Taking his storage unit apart, have the meeting with the Buckeye Police Department, and pull the search together and do this interview with Petito, right? I had to do all of that in them little few days because I made that money that y'all guys helped donate for me. I try to make it stretch as far as I can. I'm gonna try to squeeze it. So anything what happened to me this time though, I tried to stretch that day and a half, and I told them I'm going to Buckeye Police Department, get in their face, and I'm gonna go to the desert with James Vehicles found because I want to do something there. And I had all those things planned, right? But when I hit the ground, one thing I forgot about. Forgot about the Green Bay Packers was playing the doggone Arizona Cardinals, and they just screwed everything up for me. So, make a long story. When that city get like that, it gets busy. So it screwed a lot of stuff up for me that day. But the point is, I still squeeze in a lot of stuff. But yes, I try to get in touch with. I'm trying to get back in touch with these departments, and the way you do it. And they have a long game. They had a long waiting game. I didn't. My money would run out. They knew this. Law enforcement know this. Time come that Mr. Ross will be gone because funding for him would dry up, right? But for them, they have long money and they can hold the ground as long as they can. And eventually, I would have to leave, right? And they was right. I did have to leave Arizona. But what I'm saying is, when I get back to Arizona, I tell families this all the time. It's difficult when you're making phone calls. Phone calls do not get you nowhere. Emails will not get you nowhere. You have to get in people's face. And that's the reason why I'm telling you that mail-in protest helps me out. Sign a petition, because when I get in the face, I talk about these things, right? And so I put pressure on them. When you put pressure on them in their face, you're not going away. They see you're present. You make them move. All the searches that Buckeye them bragging about, they claim they did and stuff like that, it came from pressure. Because other than that, they gave me the vehicle. They said they told my investigator they weren't investigating. Literally told him that. He said it on TV, so he's not lying. He had to go on a court case, a judge panel or whatever. He would say it then. They was not even investigating until News Nation and the media and put that pressure. You guys was calling, and that's the only thing that make police law enforcement like Buckeye move. Is you put pressure on them, embarrass them, bring them out into the light, just like roaches. If you have roaches hiding somewhere and you open the shutters and the light come in, they go scatter all over the place, right? So it's almost like that. And so what I'm saying is I need that kind of exposure from you guys to help me continue this fight, because I'm fighting for you too. And I don't want to go into politics, but I can't help but say I want to run it because I started running. I can say only because I want people here to say, "Oh, he just running because I have my competitor." I had a guy that's running against me for the primaries. He told one of the constituents, "Say, oh, he's running for office only because his son." In terms of make it sound like I don't care about my state, I don't care about the people here in my state, and I do. If you guys know how passionate I am about people, period, I care about everything. It ain't just missing America stuff. It's about other things too. This is a different platform and a different reason I'm talking right now. But I would probably never did anything, the things I don't like about what's going on in my state. I'd probably been like any other constituent, don't say nothing about it until my son went missing. My son went missing. Then I started meeting people like you guys. I started meeting these families. I started got a passion to help other families. And that's what caused me to end up running for office, because look, I'm still trying to get cell phone pings for my son's case, right? I said, I'm going to get them. I'm going to get them. I told those telecommunication companies, and when I had a meeting with all of them, all the ones, these phones you guys have in your pocket right now, I had a meeting with these people. And all of them try to unify together. I'm telling you, this meeting was kind of rough. I had 2 meetings with them. I had a personal meeting with T-Mobile Sprint at the time. And when I told these people, I'm coming through your back door. Back door meaning I'm coming running for Congress, and I'm gonna do everything I can to change some of these legislations to push these private companies from their stealing our data, holding our data for profit. But when it comes down to helping families when we need our own data, they're not doing it. Those type things, and causing people like me and my family not to have them at all because of their retention stuff. So I have a reason to run for office, right? And that pushed me to do it. But at the same process, it helped me be able to help my state too, because we have our own personal issues for my state that I don't like. I live in my district all my life, and I don't like. So make a long story. So sometimes out of tragedy, great things can happen, and that's the only way I can explain it. And the only way I can see it is to give my opportunity to try to do something with my life when it comes to helping people. I can go a little further. I've been doing this for 4 years. I can go a little further in helping as many people as I can. So that's the reason why I decided right now just go ahead and get back on this live, you guys, and I'm gonna jump off, and I keep saying it over and over again. I just miss talking to you guys. I miss engaging with you. I truly appreciate your support. I miss telling you guys that the families and stuff that I have came in contact with over the years. I haven't forgotten about you. That's the reason I'm doing what I'm doing. I have not forgot about you. My quietness means I'm actually working. And so, but like I said, I thought about it the other day. I have a new team, to make a long story short, on the political side. And it freed me up right now to, I think about it. I say, you know what? I can take one day and do lives. And so I'm thinking I'm going to designate, and I'm going to talk to my team again, but I'm going to designate a Friday today, every Friday, to try to do a live. It's going to be probably around 8 o'clock Eastern time. That'll be 6 o'clock p.m. After Sunday, it'll be 6 o'clock p.m. If you live out west, like Arizona, California, I guess would be, I think California go back 3 hours. So I had to adjust the time. I'd look at it and adjust that time. But what I want to do is make it fair for everybody, whether you're on the West Coast. Daniel went missing out west, so I want to make sure it's catering to people out west, but also here in my state, on the East Coast too. So thanks so much for your prayers. I truly appreciate it. I see you, Dana. I see you. Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much for your prayers. Yeah, they do. I do know somebody knows something. I agree with you. Thanks so much for your prayers. I really appreciate it. Your support. And I will talk to you guys on the next one. And thank everybody who I couldn't put up on the Instagram side. Belle Kester, thanks so much. And thank you for thinking about my family. I truly appreciate you. Charles, I see there. Nikki, Renee, Jen, Trish, Wonka. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining in on this live. And I hope you all have a great weekend. I would try. I hope we all can get some rest. I know I need it. But just want to say thank you so much again, like I said. And I guess I'll catch you on Friday. But you'll see I get a notice. Let everybody know I'm on. So you get a notice. So thanks so much. Y'all have a blessed night.